Welcome to Evolving Into Her. I'm Ashley Hope, and this is your weekly check-in to get out of your head, into your body, and back into alignment with the version of you who's already living the vision. So grab your favorite cup of tea, settle in, and let's get into the show. Welcome back to Evolving Into Her. And today is special. Today, I want to take you back to a moment that really cracks my entire life wide open. The kind of moment that doesn't always come with a breakdown, but really brings you face to face with a decision. It brings you to a crossroads and you have to make a choice. And it asks you to make the kind of decisions that ask, am I really going to keep doing this? Am I really going to keep living like this? Am I really going to keep settling? Is this good enough? Or am I ready to choose myself? And I've told this story so many times in bits and pieces. I've told it inside coaching calls. I've told it over dinner with girlfriends. I've told it on Instagram stories, but this is my first time telling it here on the mic where it gets to live. And I'm glad that I have the opportunity to do this because I know there's someone out there holding their breath right now on the edge of a decision, on the edge of a life shift, on the edge of her becoming. And I want you to know, girl, you're not alone. You're not crazy. You're evolving. So, a story time, if you will. So, I was 35. I was holding it all together, at least from the outside, child. Okay. I had the job, I had the relationship, I had the stability, I had the routine, I had the abundance, I had the community, the friends. But inside, my spirit was restless. It was uneasy. And not because anything was wrong, right? Because everything looked right and looked good on paper, but it still felt off. I don't know if y'all have ever felt that, where you could have all the things and have checked all the boxes and something still feels off. It still feels unsettling. It still doesn't feel good and fulfilling. You still don't feel at peace. I was in a relationship at the time. We'd been in a relationship for a few years. I want to say around 2 to 3 years. And I have nothing bad to say about the guy. He was sweet. He was solid. There was no mess. There was no drama. And he was actually one of the best relationships I'd been in at that point. And he showed up and he meant well. And I kept trying to convince myself that it was enough because on paper it was. But since my body knew, my spirit knew, and I'd find myself asking, over and over and over, is he the one? Is this right for me? Should I keep pursuing this? Should I stay in this? And I got dead silence in response. And that silence was my answer. And so many times I try to override it. I prayed, I journaled, I looked for the good in him. I magnified the good in him. I went to the tarot lady and bugged her and asked her. I wrote out every reason he was a good man. I made the pros and cons list. I did the energy healing. But good doesn't always mean aligned. That's a hard truth. Good does not always mean aligned. And I had to get real about that. I had to be honest with myself. And one night we had a deep conversation, just one of those long conversations that happens when you both already know. And I remember like it was yesterday, that night on the couch, I made the decision, I made the call. I didn't want to keep betraying my own knowing. And shortly after that, I ended it, and not out of anger, but out of respect for him, respect for me, respect for my future self, respect for what we both deserved. And that one decision, that honest moment, it changed the game. It changed everything because once I had the courage to actually walk away from something that no longer fit, I couldn't unsee all the other stuff in my life, all the other pieces that were out of alignment too. I started looking around and I was like, wait a minute now. Wait a minute. Do I even like this version of my life? Like, actually like it, right? Even though some of these things were things that I prayed for, that I fasted for, that I set intentions about. Does this version of my life still reflect who I am and where I'm going? Right. And I'll start with my job. I was working full time in accounting. I've been in accounting for almost a decade. It was stable. It was a good job. I was in the position where I was being paid well and I didn't have to do much. And at one point, I used to really love my job and the people that I worked with. It felt like I made it. Okay. But over time, things started to shift. Leadership changed. There was some restructuring. The morale dropped. The energy started feeling heavy. I started having the Sunday scaries and the Monday blues and counting down to Friday and wanting to leave early and come in late and take long lunches. Like, you know how that goes, right? And I remember some days sitting at my desk, and my desk, we had an open office concept, which, child, is so ghetto. Whoever thought about that? Whoever thought to make office space like that? Oh, girl. And so the metro was across the street from my job. And some days I would just be in a daze and I would fantasize about walking out, maybe at lunchtime, and just hopping on the metro, taking a one-way fare, and just never coming back. And just thinking that this is not what I want anymore. This does not feel good for me. And I spend too much time in the office for me to feel this heaviness. It was making me sick. It was making me feel anxious. It was making me feel so unsettled. I started complaining so much about my job. And it's not even in my character to be that type of person, to complain and then not come up with some type of solution. I was just sitting in it and just miserable. And I would really fantasize about just leaving it and doing something else and pivoting. And not because I didn't want to work. Like, I love to work, especially when it's something that I enjoy, when it feels fulfilling. And baby, I like money. Okay. But because the workplace no longer felt like mine, and it no longer felt true to me, and it no longer felt good to share space with these people, it felt like I was showing up as the watered down version of myself. I wasn't in my body. I was just there to do my work and go home. And when I think back on it, I have so much grace and compassion. And I send so much love to that version of Ashley who was just outside of her body, almost watching herself like an avatar. And back then I was tired of pretending that this was enough. Even though from the outside in, I know there are people who would feel so grateful and so blessed to be in my position. And that's part of the reason I stayed so long, just like with the relationship, right? Because a lot of people pray for good enough, and I had it. And sometimes you feel ungrateful that it doesn't feel in alignment. So now let's move to the area I lived in. I lived in the DMV. I was raised there. That's home, that's roots. And I love the DMV, but I had started to feel unhappy there. It started to feel stale. The DMV has changed a lot. It started to feel like I was living on autopilot, like I was living in Groundhog's Day. It was the same places, the same conversations, the same energy, and I just couldn't pretend it was working anymore. And I remember one night I was in my apartment, fresh off the breakup, and it was eerily quiet. It was eerily quiet. And I had this moment where I looked around and I thought, man, if I'm not in this relationship anymore, this job isn't fitting me, then why am I still here? There's nothing tethering me to the DMV. Like, I'm not married. I don't got no kids I got to care for. I don't even got no dog I got to take care of. Like, baby, you can go. Like, it's on you. Like, you got to get out of your own way. You are who you are looking for to save you, girl. Okay. And that question of why am I still here? Whew, Girl, that's the one that got me, okay? That's the one that made me shift. That's the one that made me pivot. That's the one that made me actually do the work and have the audacity to quit my job with nothing lined up. Um, so I did what I always do when I needed clarity. I journaled and I wrote, if I stay on this path, will my 40-year-old self be proud? And remember, at the time I was 35. And so I was looking forward to my future self and her experience. And I wondered, like, would she look back and say, thank you for holding it down? Thank you for the decisions that you made. Or will she feel like I sold myself short? And when I answered that question honestly, the answer was no. She wouldn't be proud. She would be heartbroken. She'd be wondering what her life could have been if she just trusted her gut. And it just clicked for me. It just clicked for me. I wasn't going to wait on clarity. I had all the clarity I needed because I already knew. I had a deep inner knowing. I just didn't want to deal with the cost of the truth, right? And I couldn't keep living like that. And so I made the decision. I broke my lease. I put in my notice at that job. I sold most of my stuff. And eventually I packed the rest of my stuff in a 4x6 U-Haul. And the night before I left, I remember sitting in my apartment after I broke my lease, and I didn't have much furniture left, baby, just boxes and bare walls. And again, it was so quiet. And that's when the anxiety creeped in and I cried my eyes out. I was scared. My chest was tight. And I remember saying out loud, what the hell am I doing? Am I blowing my life up? Because that's what it felt like, right? And I could have all the faith in the world, but when you're in the moment, it's like, whoa, you don't have any really clear answers or a clear path. It does feel like you're just shaking stuff up and there's no guarantee that it will work, you know? And so I had talked to a friend and she said something I'll never forget. And she said, you didn't destroy your life. You made room for your real one. And man, that still hits. It still hits because in that moment, my whole nervous system just exhaled. And although this felt chaotic, it was really alignment. And alignment does not always look like ease and peace and butterflies and rainbows. Sometimes it looks like making hard decisions, and those decisions feel uncomfortable. Those decisions can bring on an uncertainty and anxiety. And it was the first time in years I felt like I was finally choosing me and choosing the life that I desire and deserve. And by the grace of God, baby, it worked out. And not overnight, not without fear, not without anxiety. I still felt all the things. I still second guessed damn near everything, but it worked out in the ways that mattered. Um, I ended up driving to Houston from the DMV on a 24-hour road trip with my brother. And that was so much fun. It's such a core memory. And he's one of my best friends. So it was good to spend time with him before I officially moved. I didn't have a job lined up. I didn't have a solid plan. I didn't have a network there. I just had a knowing, an inner knowing. And I had my grandmother who lived nearby, but that was my only anchor in that moment. And so when I got to Houston, I started working for myself and I built a business from scratch. I don't have a business degree. I do have a background in accounting, but no formal strategy, no business plan, just intuition and grit and a whole lot of inner work. And at first, I was offering energy healing sessions. I was making intention oils out of my kitchen. Okay. I was on coaching calls. I was hosting workshops in borrowed Zoom rooms. But even in the beginning, I felt something I hadn't felt in years, right? I felt purpose. I felt fulfillment. And the more I showed up for it, the more it expanded. And as a result, I expanded too. And I started attracting clients who felt like soul family. I began using my voice in a way that felt healing and not performative. I got clear on what I was here to offer, and I stopped watering it down to be palatable or professional. And in the middle of all that, when I least expected it, when I was out here just enjoying my life, being beautiful, being outside, running my business, and minding my business, I met the love of my life. I met a man who sees me, who makes me feel safe to be soft, who makes me feel safe to receive, who honors me, and not just for what I do, but for who I am, exactly as I am. And he proposed 7.5 months into us dating, and our relationship, our partnership has been the sweetest, safest chapter of my life. But here's the thing, none of that happened because I had a perfect 5-year plan. It happened because I got honest, radically honest. It happened because I chose to stop pretending I was fulfilled. Ooh, that was a bar. It happened because I chose to stop pretending I was fulfilled and started living like I deserved more. And still, let me be real, my story was dramatic, right? I basically lit a match, set my life on fire, and walked away with nothing but a vision and a little whisper of faith, okay? A little mustard seed. And by some miracle, it actually worked, okay? And I'm so grateful. But I'm not out here encouraging everybody to do it like I did, because my path is not the blueprint, right? This is just my testimony. And you don't have to burn it all down to evolve into her or to become. You don't have to quit your job abruptly. You don't have to end your relationship. You don't have to move to a new city and start over from scratch. You can start with small, quiet shifts. You can start by telling the truth to yourself in your journal. And to be honest, telling the truth to your therapist, because some of y'all be lying to y'all therapists, okay? You could start by listening to your body, because your body knows. Your body knows when something is not right for you. You could start by noticing where you feel drained and resentful and misaligned, and slowly, incrementally, start choosing differently. Start with the mindset work, baby. Start with the identity shifts. Who do you need to become to evolve into her, to call certain experiences and people into your life? Start with learning how to regulate your nervous system so your expansion actually feels safe, right? And so when you get it, you don't fumble it. Start by asking, what does the next version of me need right now? And not in theory, but in practice, and walk that out. That's the foundation. That's the work. So burning it all down like I did is not required. And honestly, most of the time, it's not sustainable for most people, especially if you're impulsive and you don't really have a connection with your intuition. I would not recommend that. And truth be told, even after all that, I'm in another season of expansion right now, another pivot, another shedding. And I've taken huge leaps once again, and it is working out. And I'm letting it unfold. I'm letting myself be in the in between without needing to force it into shape, right? I'm practicing non attachment and not weighing too heavy on my expectations or on outcomes. I'm letting this be sacred. I'm letting this be soft. I'm letting this be expansive. I'm letting this unfold, because that's what this journey is really about. It's not a straight line. It's more like a spiral. And sometimes it's going to spiral down, okay? But it's a sacred unfolding, a becoming that doesn't always come with clarity first, but it's going to ask you for courage anyway. You still got to take that step without the clarity. And just know that I'm in it with you. And now it is time to move into a moment for her. And so if you're in a space where you can, let's take a breath together. Because this podcast isn't just something you listen to, it's a space to return to yourself. So if you're in a space a safe space. Bring one hand to your heart and the other to your belly or your womb space. And close your eyes and take a long, full inhale through your nose and just hold it for a second. Good. And at the top of that breath, gently exhale through your mouth. Again, take a long, full inhale through your nose, expanding your belly, expanding your diaphragm. Hold at the top and gently exhale through your mouth. Good. And in this moment, let your shoulders drop. Let your jaw unclench. Release your tongue from the roof of your mouth. And just let your body be. Let your body catch up to your becoming. And as you breathe, say this to yourself in your mind or out loud. I trust myself to choose again. I trust myself to evolve. I am allowed to begin again as many times as I need to. And friend, let that settle in. Let it land. Let it be enough for right now. And when you're ready, you can bring your awareness back to the present moment. I'm Ashley Hope, and you've just listened to another episode of Evolving into Her. If this episode moves something in you and you're ready to go deeper, or you just want to feel held as you navigate your own next chapter, you can visit my website, www.ashleyhope.co, to explore ways we can work together. Thank you again for being here. Thank you for choosing her. Thank you for choosing you. And until next time, stay in devotion to your becoming.